haven't heard of Jesus and young Jesus missions this summer. Civic, Miss Hummer. Okay, this your first flavor bit? Yeah, like that's going to be one of the bullet points. Check with sound man before. I got some sweet. Yeah, I can hear the word. I'm in full rinsing mode, bro. Not yet. Yeah, without all this. With the beer, but not the glove. Yes, sir. I got it. I got her. She's there, room there. I got like a child lady. I see good things to you.
What, man? I'm gonna sit next to you.
Listen, always on 100.
Every once in a while, can you just double back on it and just see, checking out how it's running?
Go check it.
Is it okay if I just keep it running?
You're on now? Let's do it.
Every once in a while, it doesn't have to be. So this is Mike Lax with JamTheHype.com. We're at the artist track at Flavorfest 2012. About to start here with Tara of Reach Records Booking. We got Mr. D-Mob right over there. What's up? Got Kindred Shepherd of Breed Life Radio, Princeton. We got all the artists in here. So Reach Records. Tara today's going to talk about booking and touring for your artists.
You understand what I'm talking about? We're a place family.
Say hi to GMTheHype.com family out there.
How are you? You're at Flavorfest with me and Mike. And Mike in the morning.
Mr. K Drama right over there.
Good morning, everyone.
We'll be starting here in just a minute.
Okay, y'all ready to get in about this touring situation?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, my name is Tara Carter, and... Okay, you're supposed to tell me all this ahead of time. You're supposed to say don't go close to the speaker. Goodness. Okay, so anyway, my name is Tara Carter, and I work for... Reach Records, Reach Booking, whatever Reach there is, I do a little something in there. So anyway, in November it'll be 5 years that I've been with Reach, and I actually was brought on the team at the point that Reach decided that they wanted to start touring. So we started touring and didn't know anything about it. So we learned everything the hard way. So my desire is for all of you not to have to go through some of the things we had to go through just because we didn't know better. So that's the whole purpose, and and me wanting to share what we've learned over the past years. My administrators here with me today. Her name is Yosh. She's our administrator at Reach Booking. And so basically what I do and what I'm responsible for is all of the touring with Reach and some of the management with Reach. So any type of events that we do, whether it's a conference, whether it's a tour, Reach Life Institute, I oversee that. And then we also are starting a management division with Reach, and where we're managing the artists that are on the label. So I kind of have dual roles, and I kind of oversee both of those areas. So it's been a great 5-year run, and we just started a tour this week. And so it's been a crazy week for us, but we're looking forward to what's going to happen on this particular run. So this is going to be a very practical workshop. So it may be a little different from some of the other workshops that you guys are going to be attending. But I really want to be able to give you information that you can put to use when you're getting ready to put together your own runs. And so I've just been paying attention to a lot of the tours that's been going over the past year or two and taking notes. I get a lot of questions from people. And so I kind of broke everything down in about 4 different categories. So we're going to talk about the purpose of touring, why we do touring in the first place. We're going to talk about the importance of the promoter and or host. You know, you could use the terms interchangeably. What they mean to your ministry. We call them stakeholders. That's the word that I use because they really do invest in what you have going on as artists. We're going to talk about budgeting. That's the biggie that most people tend to struggle with in regards to how do you go about, you know, knowing what your market value is and going on the road and it being a win-win for you and for the host. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is just the routing and the different type of tours there are. We have a label tour, but we also do promotional tours and we do concert series. And so there's a little bit of difference between all of them, and so we're going to go through that so you guys can leave with some options for the next time you release a project. What would be the best thing for you to put together for the season that you're in, okay? So let's start out with touring. Why do we tour? Y'all tell me. What's the purpose of touring?
Promotion.
Promotion. What else? Exposure. Exposure is the biggest word. So the whole purpose of touring is exposure. And what most people don't understand is most artists do not make money touring. Touring is very risky, and I think that if you go in with the right expectations, then you're not let down if you don't financially gain from the tour that you're on. Most of the time, you have to really see it as an investment. It's an investment to gain a fan base, okay? So you don't necessarily see the benefits while you're doing it, but you see the benefits after it's over, if that makes sense, okay? So the goal is to, as an artist, you want to be in front of as many people as possible so that they're able to hear your ministry. That's the whole purpose of touring. Sometimes you'll make money on it, sometimes you won't. I will be honest, the first 2 tours we did, we lost money. People don't think we did, but we lost money. And we didn't lose a lot. But we didn't start making money on our tours until we did the Unashamed tour in 2010, okay? So the 08 tour, the Don't Waste Your Life tour, we did not make money on those, okay? But we gained fan base. So by the time we did the 2010 tour, it became profitable at that point. So I really want you guys to understand the importance of consistency and having a long-term perspective to what you're doing instead of a short-minded view of what you're doing, okay? So we do touring for exposure, and the important thing I want you guys to leave with is the investment long-term of what's going to happen. So another example of that is we did a run, Lecrae did a run a couple years ago with Acquire the Fire. I know some of you may know them. He did a 15-city run with them. We knew he wasn't going to make any money. We knew he wasn't. But he did that for 2 months, but he gained more of a fan base from that, okay? So some things you just got to think of as an investment. Have your merch game going, you know, and you'll make a little money on your merch, but you really don't want to go into tours thinking you're going to make a lot of money on your honorarium. Because when you go on a tour, because you're doing so many dates, the first thing the host is going to think and the promoter is going to think they're going to get you for a discount. And that's true because that's how it works. So if you go out for $2,000 on your one-off, basically a one-off is a date that's not included with a tour, right? So if you go out for $2,000 on your one-off, then the expectation is going to be when you go on a tour, oh, he's going to cut that down, probably maybe half the cost, okay? So when you think tour, the host and the promoter is going to think discount. So don't get mad at them for it, but that's their mindset because that's normally how it works. Because you're doing a string of dates, you can bring your price down, okay? So you can hit the road and you can do a string of dates in a small amount of time, all right? So let's talk about what promoters do and why they're stakeholders in your ministry. One thing that we're seeing consistently, and you guys are all probably aware of it, is just over the past 3 to 5 years, album sales are just not what they used to be, right? So now you have a lot of labels that are doing the 360 deals, and the reason for that is because they're not making a lot of money on the album sales. So now you have people wanting to get a portion of your touring money, they want to get a portion of your merchandising money. And so it's very important to build yourself as a touring artist because album sales are just not what they used to be, okay? So now you have an opportunity to build relationships with promoters that will invest with you long term. And so one of the things I see consistently a lot is people want the host or the promoter to host them, but they don't necessarily think about what that promoter and host needs to be successful in promoting their event, okay? If the promoter is not happy, that's going to hurt you. If you have a bad event, then they're going to go, and we have this customer service model. It works with across the board with anything. If they have a bad experience with you, guess how many people on average they're going to tell? 10 to 15. Okay? They're going to tell 10 to 15 other churches, promoters, that they had a horrible experience with you, and guess what? They're not going to bring you in. Okay? So it's very important whether you believe, have the same ministry philosophy, if, you know, some of the things you may not believe in what they do, it's still very important to have a good relationship with them and have a respectful relationship with them, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between hard ticket sales and soft ticket sales. Has anybody heard of those two terms? All right. So this is what I hear a lot from people. They'll say, well, I went to First Baptist Church Atlanta and I did a concert, and there was 2,000 people there, right? But I can't get promoter to do a show with me. They say it's too risky and that I'm asking for too much money. So here's the issue. When you do a soft ticket date, meaning that you're coming in to be a part of an event that's already being put in motion by a church or another ministry, the mindset behind that is that they're going to already have an audience of people that are going to follow that event, okay? So what the promoter sees is that if you go to First Baptist and they're having some big concert, half the congregation is going to already come to that event. So you're not necessarily bringing the people to the event. Does that make sense? So what we'll see happen is you'll go to the church, you'll play in front of 2,000 people, and then say a promoter does give you an opportunity, and they bring you in, and then only 100 people show up, or 200 people show up. That really tells you what your market value is. If a promoter puts you out as the headliner for an event, or puts you on the bill for an event, how they determine your market value is how many people are going to show up, pay to see you outside of any other church event or ministry event, how many people are going to pay and come to see you, okay? So the goal is, and one of the things that's hurting the Christian music market is, because we tend as artists to want more money up front, then we like them soft ticket dates, okay? We like going to the churches, they're going to pay us more money, but what we don't understand is when we go through issues where the churches are cutting their budgets, you know, they don't have the same money to bring you in, you can't stand alone as a hard ticket artist, okay? So you want to have kind of a balance of both, and that's one reason why we do things like concert series. Like if you guys notice, whenever one of our artists puts an album out, we try to do a concert series around that. That helps us to build them as a hard ticket seller. So they may be able to go to Atlanta and sell 600 tickets. That's really good. If 600 people pay $10 to see you, that says something. People pay attention to that. So you want to have a balance between soft ticket dates and hard ticket dates, and you have to be willing to not be prideful. And if you do your first event and 50 people pay to see you, that's a start. And you want to build from there, okay? Yes?
So the way to build hard tickets is to do the soft tickets, but...
The way to build hard tickets is to do hard tickets, to do a hard ticket event. So we're going to talk about the budgeting here in a minute, because one of the things that normally has to happen is when you're first starting, you cannot have expectations for people to pay, like a lot of times you may just need people to pay for your travel and maybe pay a small honorarium, because we're going to go through the expenses and I'm going to show you guys how it quickly adds up for the promoter, the amount of money they're putting in, and if they don't get a return on that, then they're going to be in the red, okay? So the way to build yourself as a hard ticket seller is to do hard ticket events. And a lot of you, it would probably be great if you start doing that within your own local region. You know, doing regional stuff works out because most of you have a following in your own regions, in your own cities. So if you do events there, then that can help build you towards that. And then you can use that as a resume for other people when there's time for them to host you. So when we do a concert series, I keep all the stats. And then when I'm trying to go to XYZ city, I'll say, well, this is what we've done in the past. You know, Tadashi is, you know, he's building as a hard ticket artist. This is what we did last year. They pay attention to that. So it's very important to keep up with your stats, okay? Let's talk about a little bit the budgeting, because this is very important, and this is the area where most people get in trouble. Okay. All right. So I have up here just an example of the cost that promoters have to pay to host an event. A lot of you may not be familiar with all the costs that go into it, okay? So if you want a promoter that knows what they're doing, and they're really going to put forth the effort to get the word out to bring people into your event, right? So there's normally a marketing expense. They have to pay for a venue. They have to pay you. And sometimes, some artists don't have their travel included with their honorarium. So they may have to pay you a fee, and then they may have to pay for your travel also. Okay, so this example right here, marketing expense $500, that goes to flyers. They might run an ad on the radio station. You know, they might give flyers to a college ministry. You know, we have a lot of promoters that'll go to a college ministry, give them so many tickets. You know, they'll say, we'll give you XYZ amount of tickets free if you can sell this many tickets for us. So that goes in this cost right here. The venue is the cost for the facility they're going to bring you into. If it's a church, they still got to pay for it most of the time. Or if it's an outside venue, they got to pay for that cost. And also in this cost is normally the cost for the sound. And so I think all of you know that if you have wax sound at a hip-hop event, it messes your ministry up because people can't understand you, they can't hear you. So all that's included in here, all right? So I just put some numbers in here so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. Then the artist fee, and then the travel. They got to pay for your flight. They got to pay for your hotel. If you're driving in, normally what happens on the artist side is you come up with a number that will include a portion of what the cost is going to be for you to have a bus or for you to have a van, all right? So when you add all these expenses up, comes up to $4,500 in this example right here, okay? And this number is pretty low. All right, most of the time this costs more, all right? And a lot of times this costs more, around $1,000 instead of $500. So at $4,500, if they do a $10 ticket, they got to get 450 people to attend the event just to break even. So a lot of people have the mindset that, oh, these promoters out here, they're making money. No, it's risk. It's a risk. It's very risky. If you can't get this many people to come see you, then this promoter is going to be in the hole. You're going to risk not getting paid. You see how it quickly becomes a bad situation? Okay? So if you don't know your market value, then all of this is going to be messed up. All right? So you got to be realistic. You know, we've had times to give you an example, there's a ministry in Minneapolis. We have a great relationship with them. But I remember they had never hosted a hip-hop concert at Club 3 Degrees. And so he was scared to host us. And I couldn't be mad at him because he didn't know what the turnout was going to be. So what I did was I eliminated his risk. And I said, we're not going to charge you nothing up front, and we'll just do a 50-50 split. Because I needed to prove to him, I couldn't just think about the right now, I had to think about long term. These people do a great job at what they do. We want to win them over for the long haul. This was back in 08, 09, the Don't Waste Your Life tour. So we eliminated the risk. We did a 50-50 split at the ticket sales at the door. So he didn't have nothing to lose in hosting us, right? Well, we ended up selling out. He couldn't believe it, and now anytime I call him, he's like, okay, we'll do it, Tara. But you have to know your market value. I knew we had a strong market value in Minneapolis. He didn't know that. I knew it, though. That's why I was willing to take that risk. But sometimes we have, some of you will have opportunities, and you'll go out and you'll do a 50-50 split, not knowing your market value, and everybody loses again. You lose. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be thinking through what your market value is in each city that you're going to. Our market value on the East Coast is not the same as it is in the South and on the West Coast. It's just real talk. If we go to Boston, it's going to be tricky. You know, if we go to Boston, I'm not going to get a 3,000-seat venue. We're going to look at something that's smaller, and sometimes it's just best to have something smaller and fill that up than to go big, knowing that you can't do that, and then the promoters having to spend money that they don't need to. Okay? So, market value is very important. The other thing is, as an artist, when you're thinking through your run, the most important thing for you to figure out is how much am I going to charge them, and then your travel costs, okay? So, a lot of times you see, you have hip-hop artists and they go out, you want to have a DJ, that's important, you got to have a DJ. But sometimes you have other people traveling with you, and you have to really decide, is it good for me to have them on the road with me in this season, or is it better for me to wait? Because everybody that goes has to have some type of pay. They got to be fed. They got to be put in a hotel. You see what I'm saying? So that starts adding up. And then you have the cost for your merch. So normally, and you see this done very well on the CCM side, like CCM bands, they be on that road. They all be caught up in a band. They be making it happen. Okay? And they're not putting all their focus on this right here. They're trying to get exposure, and they're living off their merch money. Well, a lot of times, what I see is for Christian hip-hop artists, we don't have this. We don't have the merch game on lock. Well, when you don't have the merch game on lock, and you're just depending on this, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. Okay? So you need to have your merch. Don't come to a show and not have no CDs. Don't do that. Get you some CDs, get you some shirts, and that's going to help carry you along while you're fielding, and you can keep this honorarium down so you can have more time to do more cities. Okay, that's the smarter way of doing it. If this is too high, people won't book you, especially now because the market is bad. You know, people don't want to take the risk of losing their money. And then if you do a tour and everyone loses on it, then what happens the next time you drop an album and you want someone to promote you? What's going to happen then? So, very important here to use discernment and to use wisdom, but I just really would love for you guys to spend more time on figuring out your merch and then being realistic about your honorarium, what your market value is, and it's not, this stuff right here, market value takes time. It takes time to build it, you know? It's not something that happens overnight. I know sometimes people think it is. That's one of the biggest frustrations that I feel like I have is most times people want a strategy that they can apply, and they think if I have this strategy, this means I'm going to be here in this amount of time, and it just does not work that way. You can do all the right things, but at the end of the day, we all have to be comfortable and trust God that He knows what He's doing, and everybody is not necessarily going to have a platform that allows them to travel all over the United States and overseas. Some of you may just be called to do a regional ministry. Some of you may just be called to do a local ministry, and that's okay. Whatever the call is, we need to do it in excellence.
Amen.
And we need to be smart about it, okay? And use wisdom in it. So, on the touring side here, with the budget, this can be tweaked many different ways, but the biggest thing is if you have someone, if you're putting together a string of events, and you have someone, let's say you have a 3-city run that you're looking at for a weekend, all right? And so you got a Friday, Saturday, Sunday situation going on. And the Saturday event is willing to pay you pretty decent. But say the Friday event and the Sunday event is not. I would say still do all of them, because if they're in a situation where you can drive to them, you're going to still win, because you're going to still be in front of XYZ amount of people, and you put yourself in a situation where you're able to maximize your dollars because they're close to each other. Okay? So if they can't pay you as much, it doesn't matter if you're just 100 miles away. Drive. You know, drive, make it happen, sell your merch. It's putting you in front of more people. Okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about routing and the different type of tours that's out there. Because this is another thing that a lot of people have questions about, okay? So you have a promotional tour. Anybody have any guesses about what that means? A promo tour. Huh? Album's about to come out, all right? A lot of times when you see promotional runs, it is after an album comes out. We're really big on these. So normally when we have a project that's coming out, I normally try to start 2 to 3 months ahead of time and trying to book a concert series promoting the album. And it helps in 2 different ways. It's giving you can use it as a marketing tool, so it helps to build buzz around the project, because you're basically streamlining everything with the album release. So we normally call it, the name of it is normally close to a title of the album, right? But then I try to choose cities where I know the artist has the best following to do these promo tours. And the reason why is because if you're setting it up to happen after your album releases, okay, and you go to the cities that you have the best following, that is going to help you with your album sales, okay? So you don't want to do a promo tour and you're going to Timbuktu. That's not the time to do that city. You want to save that for a different time, but when it's prime time, the album is just releasing, you go to the cities where you have the best following, get your honorarium down where they can bring you in, because you have a new album, people are going to be more likely to purchase it. Do you see what I'm saying? So it ends up being a win. It's going to help you with sales with your album. It's going to help you with merch because you got a new, fresh item out. And then it's going to help you with your hard ticket sales. Okay? Now, so you have promo tours that's normally following an album. Promo tours also, sometimes if you're with a label, they may sponsor you on a promo tour. So basically, they'll cover the cost for it. That happens at times, okay? Then you have what we call label tours. We do a label tour. The Unashamed tour is a label-owned tour, and that's one of the tours that we do. But then you have other ministries that host tours, and they may look at you and want you to be a part of their tour. So normally what happens with that is they'll come to you and they'll say, we're about to do this tour. To give you an example, we did the Rock and Worship Roadshow this year, okay? So it's 27 cities. It runs from January to mid-March. So they're going to approach me and say, we want your artist to be a part of this tour. Well, I don't have to come up with a tour budget because it's their tour. They're just contracting you to be a part of it, right? So you come up with, as an artist, you're responsible for coming up with, who am I going to travel with? How am I going to make this work? Do I just need a DJ? Do I need a DJ and a hype man? Am I going to need a merch person, to help me while I'm out on the road? Do I want a drummer? Normally we try to start low and build. Tadashi is going to be doing the road show next year. Really excited for him. It's a great opportunity for him. He's going to have a DJ out. He's going to have a DJ on the road with him. He won't have a drummer, but he's going to have a hype man and a singer out with them. And so that's going to give them a different type of look. We may possibly use a drummer from one of the other bands that's going to already be there and pay them $75 to play for his 20-minute set. CCM bands will do that all day long. And then you're not having to worry about paying for travel for someone else to be out on the road. So sometimes you just got to get creative and ask, okay? So what we do is we determine how much is it going to cost for Tadashi to do this, and then set a budget for that and then present that to them. Now when we go out on a tour like that, we don't have control over how the tour is going to run, the routing. They determine all that. You're just being contracted to be on it. Okay? So one of the things to keep in mind is if you're being called to come in and be a part of a tour like that and you're the opener, Tadashi is considered on this particular one, he's going to be one of the openers. There's several. He won't be the first to go up, but I think he'll be like the third up, okay? So normally there's certain things that you may or you may not be able to do. They may tell you, the headliner is going to have 5 shirts for selling. You can only have 2 or 3. You can't get mad. You can't get mad because you're on their tour. So that's their terms, okay? And that's typical. That's very typical that they'll do that type of stuff, okay? They may tell you the headliner is selling his shirts for $25. You can't sell your shirt for $10. You got to sell it for at least $20. They're going to do those type of things, and we can't get mad because it's just part of the touring industry, okay? The other thing to keep in mind is normally when you're going into certain venues and you're on tours, there may be merch fees. Nobody likes them, but they're real, okay? So basically what happens when you go in a venue and there's a merch fee, you go in and they'll say, we do an 80-20. So basically what that means is whatever you sell for the night, you're gonna be able to keep 80% of it, but they're gonna take 20% of it, okay? So when you're looking at your prices for your merch, you may have to bump the price up slightly to cover the merch fees, okay? Now I will say, rarely do you find churches that charge merch fees, but churches are getting hip to the game now. They're getting a little hip. So you may have a church ask you to pay a merch fee. If they ask and it's reasonable, my thing is if a church asks me, if they try to ask for anything over 10%, then I'd be like, really? Like, really? Because a venue is different. There's different fees. They have to hire a different type of staffing, and there's sometimes there's union costs involved. But if a church asks you for a merch fee, I won't get mad at them, but if it's over 10%, then I do try to push them a little bit, okay? So if you're going to a church and they want to charge a merch fee, fight to keep it at 10%, okay? That's fair. That's fair, all right? Now for talking through the routing a little bit, routing is always tricky, and as you're building as an artist, it's always difficult to, because most of the time you have pockets of fan base, and so sometimes you may not be able consistently to go from the East Coast to the South to the West. It took us several years to be able to do that. The first tour we did y'all, were you on that tour? We flew. Nightmare. Bro, you talking about looking back and you're like, how do we do that? We did 19 cities, I think, and they flew to all of them. And it was about 10 people flying to every city. So you think about how late your shows are, then you have to get up the next morning, get on the flight delayed, you can't control it, don't know when you're going to arrive. We flew the first tour, but the reason we had to fly was because we did not have cities that would host us enough to where we can drive the route, okay? So by the time we did Don't Waste Your Life, we had a better little route going on, but sometimes you might be in Texas and you might have to go up to Oklahoma and Little Rock and come back down to Texas, you know? So the goal is that you don't want to drive over 500 miles between cities, wherever it is, okay? Because it's never going to plan out how you want it. You know, I'll be having all these great visions of how we're going to do the route, and then when it's time to book it, it's like, oh snap, we got to go from New York all the way here, all the way back here, you know. But the goal is to try not to go over 500 miles in between cities. If you do, that's considered an overdrive. So if you do have someone that you're hiring to drive, it's very important that once you get over 500 miles, and you normally, it's ideal to pay them a little extra for that drive. And then if it's a really long drive, like when we did tour rehearsals this past week, the guys had to go from Nashville to New York. So the goal is you don't want your drivers going over 9 or 10 hours driving. So we had to go from Nashville to Roanoke, stop, let the driver sleep, and then get back up the next morning and go into New York, okay? So 500 miles is the key, and as long as it's within 500 miles, don't let nobody tell you, why are you going from this state? And you're like, look, I'm going where they're gonna host me. And it's all good, as long as it's not over 500 miles, okay? So that's important to keep in mind. And then the other thing is, if you can get a van with the regional tours, and we're working on a regional tour with Tadashi that's going to happen in December and January. So Tadashi's based in Texas. So what we're going to do is put together a run that's Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and is it Albuquerque? New Mexico? So we're basically the four to five bordering states of Texas is where we're going to route this run, okay? And so what we're doing is we're going to hit cities that we didn't hit on the Unashamed tour, okay? We're going to take a 15-passenger van out, and he's going to have everyone on that van. He's going to have another artist on the van with him, but he's going to be able to maximize his time and his dollars doing this 2-week run in December by doing a regional run and driving. So it's really important, like, to take advantage of your region and working that region over, okay? A lot of times I feel like artists spend too much time trying to get a fan base outside of the local. If you don't have your local region on lock, then that's not good. Work your home base. Work your home base first and then grow from there. Reach work Texas. Texas is always ridiculous because Lecrae and Tadashi, they did so many shows in Texas till it wasn't even funny before they started gaining a fan base outside of that. So it's really important to work your local region and try to build runs in between there. The other thing is, and when you're deciding who's going to do a run with you, it's very important to have people that are like-minded. And what I mean by that is, if you're going into the situation knowing the realities of touring, know that you're trying to get in front of as many people as you can, and you're willing to bring your price down to make that happen, you don't want to partner with somebody that's like, well, I got to have XYZ amount of money, and I'm not going to be able to do it. Well, if that's the case, don't bring people like that in, because it's going to be a burden on you, and it's going to keep you from being able to be in front of as many people as you can be in front of, okay? Partner with like-minded people. The other thing, is there something I can erase this board with? I'm old school. That's it. I'm a mom. I got 3 kids. Sometimes we just do things. All right. So when you're thinking about your lineup, because this is something that we see a lot too. Okay. I'm running out of time. All right. So let's look at tour lineup. Okay. So you want to have what's called a headliner. No matter where you are, if you're putting together your own run, if you're the headliner, then you want to choose the artists that are going to be on the tour with you accordingly, okay? So you're going to have a headliner, a pre-headliner, I can't spell, and then you're going to have an opener, all right? So, what does this look like? This person right here, your opener, is someone that doesn't necessarily add value to your ticket, but they have a great show. They're an up-and-coming artist. They have a great show. You love their ministry. And so it's going to be a good look for them to be on the run with you, all right? But they don't have any market value, meaning when people get ready to buy the ticket, this person right here, they don't really know very well. So they don't bring any value dollar-wise, but you want to have a good show, so you bring a tight opener. No whack openers. All right? Your pre-headliner, meaning when we do smaller runs, we do try to stick to 3 artists because it just works best and it keeps the cost down, all right? So your pre-headliner, this person does bring value to the ticket, all right? So they have a ticket value and they're a little more familiar. People know them, okay? So this person's going to help you sell tickets, all right? So we have 2 different things that can go on right here. And so an example is when we did the rehab tour last year, it was Lecrae, Trip, and Andy for the most part. Andy was the opener, right? So even though Andy is pretty well known last year, he's not as well known as Trip, okay? So he's a great opener, but in a lot of cities that they were in the Midwest, he didn't have any market value in those cities, all right? But he's a phenomenal artist. He has great stage presence, right? So the Trip was the pre-headliner. So with Trip, there's 2 ways you can look at the pre-headliner slot. A lot of people try to get someone that doesn't have the same fan base as the headliner. You can do that. So like say you bring in someone and they have a younger fan base or they have a college fan base and your fan base is different from theirs. Some people choose the pre-headliner based on that, okay? A lot of times what we do is we bring in like Trip Lee and Lecrae. As of last year, for the most part, they probably had the same fan base, right? But putting Trip Lee in the slot brings more value to the ticket. Does that make sense? So if the ticket is $20 and you say, dang, Trip Lee, I like Trip, and Lecrae gonna be there, I'm gonna pay this $20. All right? So they're bringing value to the ticket, and then you build the ticket price around your market value. All right? So if your market value, you're going to cities and you know that you can do a $15 ticket in all those cities, then you want to build your budget around a $15 ticket, and you have to determine whether or not you want to break even at 500 people average or 300 people on average, and you build your budget around that. That determines how much you're going to pay everybody. That determines who you're going to bring out with you, okay? A lot of times people determine all of this without factoring in the numbers, and then they end up with these escalated high numbers. Then they get mad when they start pitching it to people and they're like, we can't pay that. We can't pay that. So it's better to look at what can we do in this region. When we did the rehab tour, we wanted to do clubs, and it was different for Lecrae, but we didn't choose these massive clubs. We chose clubs that held about 1,500. And so we knew with a $20, $25 ticket, with Lecrae and Trip on the bill, that we should be okay doing that. And we were. But that's how you choose the lineup. Now, a lot of times what we see is that a lot of people think more artists on the bill, the more artists the better. Not necessarily, all right? So here's the thing. If you have 6 or 7 artists on your tour, and I know you guys are going to be like, how's she going to say that? Unashamed got 6 artists and 2 artists opening, but it's a label tour, okay? So a label can do whatever they want to do. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to have 6 artists on your tour, all the artists have the same fan base, you got to budget accordingly because nobody's bringing a different element to the show. Everybody has the same fan base, so you can't say this person right here, 2 or 3 of the people are going to bring 50 people from a different fan base than what the headliner has if all of you have the same fan base. So the thing that I would caution you guys against about with having tours, doing tours that have 6 to 8 artists, especially if you're still establishing yourself. Like Reach can do a tour with 6 artists because they have more of an established fan base, but some of you really need to keep it to 3, because if you don't, all those people on the tour, they still have to be fed, they gotta travel, you know, and so it just ends up being a long. You want to make sure that your show has different dynamics to it. So you want to choose your artists according to that. So, you know, if we're going to do a Black College tour next year. I'm really excited about that. doing a Black College tour, there's some artists that wouldn't be a good fit for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Prop could kill it on a Black College tour. Sho Baraka, he would kill it on a... No, I don't think we're going to put Andy Minnie on that. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, you want to choose your artists according to what you're doing. And sometimes more artists on the bill if it's not bringing value to the ticket, then it's better to stay with this flow right here. Because it just gets expensive. It gets expensive and it's unnecessary expenses if it's not going to bring value to the ticket. Now you do have some runs where people have several artists on there, and the situation may be that they might ask you to buy onto a tour. And this is the last thing we'll cover before we do question and answer. So, say someone comes to you, and let's say it's us. Okay, we're about